MotorSports Magazine. Tonight, highlights for what has turned out to be the final regular Saturday night show of the year. Where did the year go to? It is the last Saturday. Of course, we take all of next month off. We will conclude it October 1st and 2nd with a big Fall Foliage 300. That, of course, in conjunction with the Cars and Stars of the American-Canadian Tour. Well, last week, once again, I want to thank Calvin Castine for manning the cameras. Rob was out of town doing a second MSM production. We'll have him talk about that in just a second. And right now, why don't we bring him in? Because it's nice to have him back, of course, and he can tell us where he was last week, in case you've forgotten. I can tell you that we have a fantastic Super Modify show coming up next month. And Rob, you had fun, didn't you?
Steve, I was down at the Lee USA Speedway.
That's just what he did. He got to the front. It took him a little time, but once he got there, he was the best car on the track. But I'll tell you, the car that probably could have done him in was the 86 of Tyson Drown. Tyson, who got married just hours before racing, almost had a big celebration his wedding weekend, as he almost got by them all. The only thing he couldn't do is get past Gary. Tyson second, and points leader Eric Williams, though he finished third, increases the points lead, but he was not a happy camper because he really thought he could win that race and found out that 53 and that 8. Well, the first one, it was the 75 of Farnsworth, as I recall, wire to wire. He really had no difficulties. He got to the front and simply ran away with it. Then we started qualifying for the second one, and whatever the 75 had the first half of the night, he didn't have the second half. Didn't seem to get the job done when the second main event rolled around. That honor went to the 92 of Dan Gibbs, who was in a tight points battle with Brian Pugh. Still behind him, by the way. We'll get to that in a minute. But Dan, who had a little help, though, because Jason, his brother, was in attendance, and his father, Dave. But Dan was the only one behind the wall. He did a good job, but he also had a tough time earning. He had some guys right behind him working him over.
Once again, thanks to Calvin Castine for expertly filling in for myself as I was down on vacation in the Massachusetts, New Hampshire area. So thanks to Calvin, who is, of course, a big player up on Hometown Cable and the Champlain New Channels. Everybody's very familiar with Calvin up there. And whenever he films behind the camera, he always does a great job. So thanks to him. Now the point battles. First of all, we'll talk about the late model sportsman, and that is tight.
Well, it is really going to come down to probably what happens tonight, because if things work out the right way, it could be clinched tonight. Sitting on top of the points, the 25 of Dave Wickham with 974. Brent Dragon right behind him with 946. Now let's remember, Dragon is a master of consistency. He doesn't win, but he always seems to be up near the front. Wickham, the last couple of weeks, has shown that he is prone to mechanical problems. Let's keep that in mind. Third, our defending champ, Scott Carpenter. But Scott right now 71 points behind. Maybe a little tough for Scott to go back-to-back. Becto is fourth, and our leading rookie, Ron Weston, currently fifth in the points. But it looks like maybe it's a Wickham and Dragon battle right now.
All right, those will be the cars to watch this evening. Again, just 2-point counting races left on the schedule tonight and the Fall Foliage weekend coming up the first weekend in October. Now the Flying Tigers, really it's a two-horse race, and the horse out in front has quite a commanding lead.
The horse in front has a 53-point lead, and that is not a comfortable margin, believe me, because the guy leading is Eric Williams. You would think 1 point's enough for him. But the guy in second right now with 1,072 is Jason Leon. We know Jason can win a race here. He had done so, let's see, 3 times already this year. Remember, he's won 3. Eric's only won 1. Kind of hard to believe, but that's all Eric's won. Third is Eldred Hutchins, but Eldred is 101 points out of the lead, and I think right now Eldred's saying, let's try to get into second, because 101 points is really going to be tough with only 2 races to go. Mark Eddy is fourth, and Mike Bushy rounds out the top 5, but again, looks like a 2-horse race.
I know we've talked to Eric Williams before, and he says he only drives one way, and that's to win. But I got to think with 2 races remaining, he might play it a little bit more consistent and a little bit more conservative on his way to the front of the pack.
Well, he cannot afford to really destroy that machine for one good basic reason. He's not only in the point battle here. That same car is leading the points at Thunder Road, and that season, of course, winding down to an end. So that car is right now on the verge of winning 2 track championships. That's a pretty tall order for anybody.
Street stocks right now, very tight battle between Brian Pugh and the Gibbs car, car number 92.
16 points, the margin of difference. Brian Pugh increasing from 6th last week. He now has 16 points on the 92 of Gibbs. Terry Gunnup is third with 956. Bob Wells, 950. That's going to be a close battle to watch. Corey Trombley currently 5th with 916, but it is a Brian Pugh, Dan Gibbs battle for the top spot. But I'll tell you what, Bob Wells and Terry Gunnup, 6 between them. Third is going to be tough, too.
All right, so certainly the action on the track will be hot and furious this evening with just 2 points counting races left on the schedule. A lot of drivers trying to move up a little bit in this point standings. Certainly some of those drivers are involved in very tight point championship battles. Here's what's coming up on this evening's Motorsports Magazine program. We'll have an interview with Airborne manager Cricket Campbell. Also, we're headed to the pits, and hopefully we'll be able to corral some of your favorite drivers in the late model sportsman, Flying Tiger, or Street Stock division, and we'll talk to them, get their opinion on how the season has gone. As well, you'll see the highlights from late model sportsmen, Flying Tigers, and the Street Stocks on what is the final Saturday night event for our 3 regular local divisions. Rod Knowles and Steve Hayes set to bring you highlights from Airborne. Interviews coming up next. Stay with us. You're watching Motorsports Magazine from Airborne.
Automobile, Gary Godin. Welcome to the show, Gary.
Good to be here.
Well, this is a guy who last year was his rookie season, campaigned here at Airborne, had a pretty good time of it, was not planning to race here at all this year, and a couple of weeks ago we look and you pulled in and you had a pretty good night for your first time out.
Yeah, we did. We got here about 20 after 7 and didn't even have a chance for practice or a heat race, and we started last, and I just avoided the crashes, and before I knew it, I was up in 6th, and I said, well, I guess I got to start driving now. And we ended up getting a cut tire on a restart, so that put us out.
Yeah, once again, it wasn't that he was working on the car, you just weren't really planning on using it this year.
No, we weren't. We were going to wait till next year. I was busy this year building a house, and we were just going to, plan on coming out next year, but sitting in the stands was too much.
And we should tell you that this is the same car that came off the track at the end of last year. You haven't really touched that car hardly at all. You really didn't freshen the engine. You just simply bought it back out and see what it could do.
Yeah, we just put a new body on it and made a few changes on spring rates and stuff, and it really brought the car around.
Now, that shouldn't be the case next year. I know you're hoping to be here opening day. You'll be campaigning in the late models next year, and you're hoping to be here for the whole season.
Oh, absolutely. We'll be here the first race and the last if we can.
Well, the track had a lot of conditioning on it before you ended up here this year, but compared to last year, it's pretty much the same. A lot of the drivers haven't noticed a big change, but do you notice anything different when you got out there? You maybe needed to get a little finely tuned, but you seem to adjust quite quickly.
Yeah, it's got a few bumps in it, but it's really a nice track, and I don't find no problem with it at all.
Now, it was your rookie year last year. We don't normally ask this question, but was it one of those situations where you're one of those guys who was sitting in the stands for a few years and said, I got to try this? I know a lot of drivers, that's exactly what happened. They watched the racing and said, I can do that. Is that what happened to you?
No, actually, I raced go-karts for 8 years, and then when they had this class here with the 2-barrel, I figured it was an affordable class, so figured we'd get into that. And I do my own engines, and we do all our own setup, and Culver's Engines Works over here in Plattsburgh really helped me out to get the car set up this year, so I got to give him a lot of credit.
And actually, tonight will be the last time here at Airborne you will see the 7-inch competition. You're not planning to be here in October.
No, I can't make the October race, no.
But if everything goes well, as you guys watch this probably Thursday night, a couple of days from now at the Milk Bowl, you are hoping to be at Thunderborough with that 7 machine.
Yeah, I'm going to make it for sure, unless we crash it and can't get it back together.
Yeah, we're not hoping that happens. Well, obviously, we can't say you're gold because you came here a bit late, but, a good run tonight. I mean, you were up to 6th your first time out of the box. No reason you can't duplicate that again tonight, and maybe at the Milk Bowl have a pretty good run.
Yeah, I'm hoping just to qualify there.
I want to thank my guests for joining me. Out of Plattsburgh, New York. Remember, the first time out, this car was super fast. Probably wasn't a fluke. Keep an eye on that number 7 car during the highlights tonight. He'll probably work his way back to the front. From Plattsburgh, Gary Godin. Thanks for joining me, Gary.
Okay, thank you.
Down the speedway, you see some of the work done by the pole sitter already this afternoon out off of turn 1.
In practice, Danny Manoy went just a little wide out of turn 1 and did some severe damage to the fence out there. That 74 machine that caused the damage starts at the pole of the high handicap. He is joined by Tyson Drown in the front row. Row 2, Mike Bushy, Brad. Row 3, Mark Kenny, Elder Hutchins. Row 4, our guys, Fallon. Championship, Leo. In the 5th row, the 12 of Dave Foster. 25 Tigers side in the pits. The final 9 set to in 8 laps, we'll all know. Bushy to the inside of the pole sitter, and Mike Bushy knows he's got some heavy-duty drivers behind him. He quickly gets to the front, but Eddie gets to the inside. Bit of a tap out of 4. Eddie backs off with a 51. Hudson and Brown come together in 1 as they both hit the binders. We will set the field, but it quickly changes every time they come out of a pair of turns. Bushy, followed by Eddie, Benoit, Leo, and Williams in top 5 as they come storming out of 4 to complete the second of 8 laps. Mike Bushy opens the door ever so slightly. Champlain, New York's Mark Eddy, who won the biggest race of his Tiger career 2 weeks ago with the Invitational 100, takes over the top spot. Bushy back to second. Jason Leo, anytime he finishes ahead of Williams, he'll from on the Hudson's car. Eldred Hudson with a white front flat. And there was a couple of guys behind him that did some pretty nifty driving, knocking over the back end of the 37. Up front, it is Eddie. Oh boy, trouble, and it's the points leaders involved. Williams gets a piece of Leo. Halfway, Williams got on the inside and Leo turned him around. Funniest thing, before racing, I walked over to Jay's. It was going to get a quick interview. We were really a couple of minutes before his final practice. He was talking with Williams, and they were having a pretty good time. I wonder if he feels the same right now. 6 cars. Foster, Brown, Duquette, and Ray. See them all. Two to go for Mark Eddy, who looks like he probably will have this one in his back pocket. Mike Bushy is close, but really not close enough to do any serious challenging. Eric Williams certainly not close enough, but he has a nice margin on the bow for 4. White flag for Eddy. Top 3 are pretty much established as they go into the final sets of turns. And as he comes out of turn 4, once again a checker flag on the 51 of Mark Eddy. Second to Bushy, third to Williams, fourth to the Benoit pole sitting machine, followed by Foster, Drown, Leo, and Duquette. But Mark Eddy, who sits 4th in the points with 1 feature win, of course I mentioned that was the big 100-lapper a couple of weeks ago, once again carries the checker flag of the R.J. Eddy Milk Hauling, Kepro Trading, Soups Paint Regal 51 machine, Rob, and pretty impressive run for our Champlain driver.
Well, controversy in that heat, Steve Hayes, is the 8 of Jason Leo went around. Not sure if that might have just been a racing incident, as both cars look to me were headed for the same territory, and whenever that happens, and usually somebody goes for a spin.
I don't think any way did Eric intend that, but I will tell you that Leo did have a racing groove, and it did look like Leo was slipping up the track. Can't blame Eric for trying to slip underneath. Promise Jason came back down, caught the quarter pedal of the 77 and turned the number 8 all the way around.
Heat number 2 for the late model sportsman on the Speedway. Row 1, it's Dave Gay and Ron Lamel Jr. Row 2, Bucko Branham and Steve Renadette. Row 3, Joe Thomas, and on the outside, Glenn Wright. Row 4, Dwayne Lanphier in the 40, and on the outside, George Bissett from Danbury, Connecticut. And shotgun to the field, Bonnie Lemaire in car number 8. Green is out on this second late model sportsman heat. They head down the backstretch. Dave Gay on the inside. Ron Lamel on the outside. Tries to battle for the top spot. Bucko Branham looks to the inside, trying to capitalize on any mistake. Side by side out of 2, they head down the backstretch. Ron Lamel in the 11. That 11 car's been quick the last couple of weeks. Strong second place run last week for Lamel. Gay leads it. Lamel runs second. Bucko Branham currently third. Branham to the inside of Ron Lamel to take over the second spot. spot. Branham has the second spot away from Lamel. Steve Renadette moves underneath for third. Joe Thomas looks to follow underneath. Lamel gets the car down into the fourth spot. Dave Gay leads it. It's a couple car lengths back to Bucko Branham. Steve Renadette looks to the inside down the backstretch. And Renadette has the second spot. Branham now on the outside. Lamel looks to get back underneath Branham and takes the spot back. Branham a little bit loose. Last time out of 4. Leave a little contact between the 11 and 63. Down the backstretch now. It's a 6-car lead for Dave Gay. It's car 19. Steve Renadette runs second. Bucko Branham is third. Fourth, Lamel. Joe Thomas runs fifth. Dwayne Lanphier sixth. Running 7th is Monty Lemire, and 8th is Glenn Wright. Six laps complete in this second late model sportsman heat. The lead has been out of turn 4. Trying to close the gap on Dave Gay. He's got it down to a couple car lengths as they head down the backstretch with 8 laps complete. That time a little bit high out of 4. A little foul from David Gay as they see the white flag from team starter Butch Hendrick. Renadette runs a car length back. They head down the backstretch into turn 3. Out of 4, down to the checkered flag is going to be Dave Gay. Second is Steve Renadette. Ron Lamel third. Bucko Branham brings it home fourth. Joe Thomas fifth. Glenn Wright sixth. Dwayne Lanphier seventh. 8th to Monty Lemire in car number 8. Good win for Dave Gay as he was able to get out in front. He held his position in strong run.
Well, you weren't here last week, and we didn't mention it in the opening, but the late stages of that race, which Robin Wood fell out of with 2 laps to go, David Gay on the late restart started outside pole. He was clearly running second for quite a while, but being on the outside of the last restart set him back in a hurry. But his car was very quick last week. I think he saw indications as he won this qualifier, and he had a pretty good field behind him when he won it.
All right, so we have 2 late model sportsman heats in the books. The winner of the second one, Champlain's David Gay. Stay with us, more racing action coming up on MotorSports Magazine. Put some good cars in this third late model sportsman heat. 9 of them to go 10 laps, and they're paced by car number 9, Danny Bridges. On the outside, it's Billy Fountain in the 91. Inside of row 2, Ron Weston. On the outside, it's Brian Hoare. Then Peter Fecto inside row 3. Defending track champion Scott Carpenter runs on the outside. Row 4, it's Doug Hoare in the 46. Brent Dragon in the 0. And current points leader, Steve Whitcomb. Shotgun on the field. He starts 9th. Out of 4, the green is out. Good jump for Billy Fountain. A great jump for Fountain into turn 1. But Bridges battles back down the backstretch. And problems on the Weston 35. Ron Weston in the 35 trailing Sparks out of the rear of that car. Up at the front, it's Billy Fountain leading. Brian Hoare runs second. Running third, Danny Bridges in the 9. Scott Carpenter runs 4th. 5th right now, Peter Fecto. 6th is Brent Dragon. Doug Hoare runs 7th. We go back to the front with 2 laps complete. In this third late model sportsman heat, Brian Hoare looks to the inside, no room there. Looks to the outside. Down the front stretch. Billy Fountain leads it. He runs down the backstretch. Running second to 45 of During practice, the crew on that 91 car busy working on the rear end of the car. They weren't happy with the setup. They had a lot of work to do, and it looks like that work has paid off. And Billy appears to be pretty quick here in this third late model heat. We're halfway. Brian Hoare still runs second. Gets a good run off of turn 2 as they head down the backstretch into turn 3. Still, Billy Fountain the leader. It's close down the backstretch. Brian Hoare on the outside. Billy Fountain on the inside. If Brian Hoare is going to make a move, I think it's going to be off of turn 2. Seems to be getting a real good run off of turn 2 each time at Billy Fountain. 7 laps complete. Brian Hoare pulls up on the rear quarter panel of Billy Fountain down the front stretch. They're almost side by side. Off of turn 2, down the backstretch, it's Fountain on the inside, Brian Hoare on the outside. Danny Bridges runs third, fourth is Scott Carpenter. Cars are side by side as they come out of 4. White flag is out. Who's going to get this one? Fountain on the outside, little bobble off of 2. Hoare on the outside as they head down the backstretch into turn 3. They've been side by side for 5 laps. They hit the final turn. Billy Fountain a little bit loose. Down to the stripe. It's going to be Brian Hoare. Second to the 91 of Billy Fountain. Danny Bridges third. Scott Carpenter fourth. Steve Hayes, you're not going to find more competitive racing than that heat.
That's for sure. Billy had the lead for all but the last quarter lap. Just went by the Brian Hoare machine. Looked like he probably gave him a thumb up. A great piece of driving by the younger part of the racing Brian Doug Hoare family. They got Dodge 45. Brian had a good run there. Billy having a sell for second. Third to Bridges, and Danny is 6th overall in the points, but that is the best New York driver, as the top 5 are all hail from the Green Mountain State. But up front, it was a Brian Hoare, Bill Fountain show. And I'll tell you what, the way those two guys ran, they probably aren't done battling tonight.
All right, the winner of the third late model sportsman heat, and a great heat it was, Colchester, Vermont's Brian Hoare driving the Goss Dodge Intrepid. Stay with us. More racing action coming up on Airborne. Up next, on MotorSports Magazine, rather. Up next, we have a street stock heat as the street stocks take to the speedway. Strong field of street stocks in the pits. This is the first heat for them. They're going to go 6 laps. Steve Hayes, it's a big field.
6 laps and 16 automobiles. In other words, if you start at the back of the pack, you're going to have to be super quick. Front row, the 84, Rick Wells. And we're going to hold on. The scoreboard has been off more than it has been on tonight. And on the outside of the front row is the 69 of Jace Ashline. Row 2, Sonny Reeves. In the 39 to 35 of Brian Rail. It is Wells getting the jump on Ashline as they head into trouble. Reeves and whoa, hang on. Reeves and Ashline come together, involve the 11 of Varno, but he continues somehow, even though having to the front of the pack, the only cars involved, the Ashline 69 and the Reeves 39. Rick Wells with the 84, a big lead over Farnsworth, followed by Rail, Steve Fisher, Rick Preston, Dave Fields, Ken Misek. A lot of automobiles. Probably more toward the back of the pack. Maybe capable of moving up. Some guys we have not seen a whole lot of this year. And a couple, I believe, making their first appearance of the year. Heading into 3. Double duty action. Bumpers get hooked up between the 0 of Fisher, the 08 of Fields. They separate themselves, going off the track, the 43 of Misek. Leaders coming up to work over the very slow 39 of Reeves. We've had a lot of action, no yellow interruptions, and that means that the top 2 are pulled away by a big margin. Wells with the 84, Farnsworth with the 75. They are your top to a complete front stretch lead on the third place, Brian Real, 35. One car that is moving and moving quickly. His first appearance of the year, Northfield, Vermont's John Lambert in the 96. Lambert right now super fast on the outside groove heading down the backstretch. And in front of him, Brunson comes together with Real, slides inside with Barnum for the second time. Gets in contact with someone else's mistake. And we are on the last two laps. And some of these guys will be very thankful when the checker falls. 16 automobiles in a qualifier and 6 laps. You can understand why some of these guys aren't biding their time, and you can't really blame them. White flag for Paulson and Rick Wells. Started first, hoping to finish there. Farnsworth, who won one of our 2 main events of this division last week, the only guy able to take it away from him right now. We will tell you how they finish when they cross the line, because from third back is constantly changing. We can tell you a wire-to-wire victory for Rick Wells, 84. Farnsworth, 75 is second. Hang on, a big bunch of automobiles head down. The 96 that I mentioned is third, Fields fourth, followed by Preston Real. And after that, we'll let you decide. That was very close, but let's talk about up front, Rob. It was the Rick Wells, Chuck Farnsworth show. Of course, they had a little help where the guys behind him started tagging each other and slowing up the rest of the field a bit.
Looked like Farnsworth had one shot to get underneath Wells that he just couldn't quite do it, and there was no other slip-ups on the part of Wells, and he was able to hang on to that top spot, Steve Hayes. But how about the unfortunate luck of Jim Varno, who was caught up in 2 incidents which he had nothing to do with?
Yeah, Varno came up on somebody else's mistake and became a part of it. Scoreboard is showing the 39 as Sonny Reeves third, which would be remarkable since he got put a lap down about the second time around. But I'll tell you who had a great run was the 96 machine. First time here, the car did everything on the outside and made it work. And you know what, Rob, with 15 laps to distance to the main event, I think that 96 car could be a contender on his first visit.
All right, stay with us on Motorsports Magazine. Up next, we'll have a semi-feature. Stay with us. Semi-feature time for the Flying Tigers. 9 cars on the speedway. Steve Hayes, a couple of cars to watch for. First of all, that 75 Sparky LePan looking to go for a triple crown tonight.
And he is not the only one. He, along with Moon Miller and Mark Eddy, have the opportunity to capture the elusive triple. We got to stop referring to it as the elusive triple. They've been getting it a lot this year. Front row, Miller and Holmes. I'll tell you another car to watch. He may not win, but was he impressive in his qualifier? The 28 of rookie Russell Johnson. 3 wide in the back of the pack. Eric Williams knows that Jason Leo is not in this, so he can make up a bunch of points. A lot of bumper bagging heading through 3 and 4. Everybody keeps them heading straight, though. It is Miller, Holmes, Eversole, pushing. Wood, Eddie Williams, and Johnson. Up front, Sparky LePan to the inside of Miller. They won their respective qualifiers, and right now a half a car length. The advantage for the inside groove, the 75 LePan. The other car to win a qualifier is 3 wide out of 4 and on a move. Comes in contact with Eversole. That forces Williams to hit the binders. It is LePan, Miller, Mike Bushy with a 49. He's certainly making a move up now. He is one of those many who have won a triple this year. The 79 of Ernie Holmes finds he feels he loses the back end. He refires no caution. LePan, about 8 car lengths in front of the 3-car battle for second. Bushy, Miller, and Eddy. Williams is 5th, followed by Gary Wood, Russell Johnson, Toby Eversole, and the very distant Ernie Holmes. Coming off of 4, Williams looking inside of Miller. Miller shut the door, but this time Miller drifts wide, and the 77 of points leader Williams will take the 4th spot. Nobody catching LePan. In his qualifier, he pulled away. He's trying to do the same here. But Mike Bushy is now starting to reel him in. Half down, half to go. That last time by, the margin not a safe one. or 4 car lengths. Third, Eddie. Fourth, Williams. The top 4 have separated themselves from 5th place, Gary Wood. Williams doing battle for third with Eddie goes alone, the outside groove. Battle for the top spot, heating up. Mike Bushy, lumberback to the back end of the man. I think Sparky knew you were there, Mike. Look at the inside. Sparky shuts the door. And as the top 2 think about maybe capping each other a bit, the next 2, Eddie and Williams, close in a couple of car lengths. LePan wide out of 4. The door is open with 2 to go. LePan will cut in front of the Bushy 49, however. Miller, a scratch it, makes out Williams, takes third from Eddie. And Eric Williams comes to light down the backstretch, pushes to the inside of LePan, but now Williams is involved in this battle. LePan very loose out of 4, gets it back together, white flag flies. Can Eric Williams win this one? Certainly possible. He gets second right on the bumper of the leader. A couple of laps ago, it looked like he was out of it altogether. He will go to the outside of the last-ditch effort, opens the door for LePan. Williams going to try to drag race out of 4. Bushy wins it by a car length over Williams, followed by LePan, Eddie, Gary Wood, Ebersol, Miller, and the 28 of Russell Johnson. Some terrific action up front, Rob, and Williams almost became the benefactor. He had the opportunity to win this semi.
Another great race, Steve Hayes, and the big benefactor from that semi feature is Eric Williams as he picks up bonus points on Jason Leo. But a good job by Mike Bushy, who patiently worked over Sparky LePan. There was one bobble, and that was enough.
Well, no Triple Crown tonight, but it's only fair the guy who breaks it up has won a Triple Crown here this year.
All right, stay with us. Coming up next on Motorsports Magazine, we will have the late model sportsman semi-feature. Late model sportsman feature on the Speedway. Rod Wade, Tim Patinka in row 1. Row 2, it's the 55 of Gordon Adams and the 17 of Lonnie Lackalate. Then it's Dave Gay and Ron Lamel. Buck O'Brien to the inside of Steve Renadette. Then Danny Bridges on the inside of Billy Fountain, and shotgun on the field, the 36 of Scott Carpenter. 11 cars in this one as they come out of turn 4 to the stripe. The green is out. Ron Wade on the inside, Tim Patinka on the outside. Wade with a victory in the first late model sportsman heat. 3 wide down the backstretch, some tough traffic. Gordon Adams running third, Buck O'Brien fourth. Lonnie Lackalate tries to battle back on the outside. Ron Lamel also stuck on the outside. He's operating in the third groove. Finally, Lackalate able to get the car down. Challenge for the third spot. Gordon Adams gets high, and he is very loose out of 2. Look out. Adams, to regain control of the car, slows it down, and that costs him severely. Ron Lamel still stuck on the outside. Behind him, Steve Renadette, car 76. Tim Patinka runs second. Rod Wade has a 7-car length lead back to Patinka. Running third is Buck O'Brien fourth right now. Ron Lamel, look out. Lonnie Lackalate goes around. Billy Fountain is also parked up off of turn 4. Smoke coming from the rear end of car number 91. And the caution flies just 3 laps into this late model sportsman semi-feature. And Steve Hayes, we saw earlier this evening, they were working on car number 91 and looked like it had some problems with the rear end, and looks like they got some more work to do.
No doubt about that, as he definitely broke some of the back of the car, but here's an amazing fact. We went through 3 late model qualifiers, 3 Tiger qualifiers, 2 street stock qualifiers, and the Tiger semi. This is the first caution of the night.
All right, so we have 3 laps in the books in this late model sportsman semi feature. Stay with us. Coming up on Motorsports Magazine, we'll have the conclusion of this late model sportsman semi-feature. Set to restart the late model sportsman semi-feature. Rod Weed, Tim Patinka, row 1. Row 2, it's the 63 of Bucko Branham. On the outside, the 17 of Lonnie Lackalade. Inside row 3, Danny Bridges. On the outside is Ron Lamel. Inside of row 4, Dave Gay. On the outside, Steve Renadette. And the 5th and final row, it's Scott Carpenter and Gordon Adams. Slow pace as they take the Billy Fountain car number 91 to the pit area. Transmission problems with the 91. They got a lot of work to do. Pace car stays out on the speedway. As we talked about in the opening this evening on Motorsports Magazine, there will be no more racing on Saturday nights here at Airborne the remainder of the season. This is the final Saturday night program. Fall foliage will go the first weekend in October. I believe that's the October 1st and 2nd weekend. Hopefully we'll have good weather, as for a lot of those October fall foliage races, it's been either very cold or raining, and weatherman has not cooperated. It's amazing that we have not had one event washed out this season on a Saturday night here at Airborne. And now that I've said that, I'm sure we probably jinxed that final event. Probably be about 30 degrees and probably be spitting rain all day. 3 laps complete, although I do not have the powers of Steve Hayes. Of course, if Steve Hayes would have said that, we would have had about a foot of snow. 10 cars running in the semi-feature. Out of 4, the green is out. Tell you what, Rod Weed in the 6 has been quick tonight. The rookie driver from Milton, Vermont, pulls away down the backstretch. Battle for second on the inside. It's Bucko Branham. On the outside, Tim Patinka. Danny Bridges in the 9 looks to move underneath Patinka for third. Contact as they come down the front stretch. Now contact between Patinka and Dave Gay. Patinka trying to get his car down to the inside. So far has not been able to do it. Scott Carpenter makes a pass underneath Lonnie Lackalade. Ron Lamel Jr. has gone backwards. He's been stuck on the outside. It's a freight train down the backstretch. Rod Weed, Bucko Branham, Danny Bridges, Carlink back to Dave Gay. Now a battle for 5th. On the inside is Patinka. On the outside it's Scott Carpenter. Look out! Rod Weed making a new turn here at Airborne, and he loses the lead to Bucko Branham. Cars loose out of 4. Lonnie Lackalade, dirt modified style out of turn 4 that time. I don't know if something is down on the track. Gotta be. There has to be something down on the track with the number of cars that are loose. Renadette into the 83 of Patinka. We've seen 4 or 5 cars get loose here. Bucko Branham now has almost half a straightaway over Danny Bridges, who runs second. There you see the interval. Running third is Scott Carpenter. Carpenter could really benefit here in this semi-feature, getting bonus points, as neither second place runner Brent Dragon nor point leader Dave Whitcomb are in this semi-feature, so Carpenter stands to pick up a few points here. 2 to go for Bucko Branham. Running second is Danny Bridges. Third is Scott Carpenter. Dave Gay running in the 4th spot. White flag flies for Bucko Branham. Into 3. Out of 4. Bucko Branham sees the checkers, and he'll win this semi-feature. second to Danny Bridges, Scott Carpenter third, Dave Gay is fourth. Fifth spot to Steve Renadet. And Steve Hayes, around lap 6 and 7. Things really got squirrely out there as a couple of cars went in the wrong direction.
Now they were going the wrong way in one, they were going the wrong way coming out on 4, so it was truly a mess. But I don't know if you had a chance to mention, we had a late scratch there. The guy who won the high handicap feature, Brian Hoare, did not bring the 45 out. Now let's remember, in his qualifier, he passed Billy Fallon out of 4 the last lap. The car looked super good. I have no idea where the 45 did not come out for the semi.
All right, there's the winner of the Late Model Sportsman semi-feature. It's Plattsburgh's Buck O'Branham. Stay with us. Coming up next on Motorsports Magazine, highlights from the Flying Tiger feature. Flying Tiger feature. Steve Hayes with the call. Flying Tiger feature takes to the Speedway. Here's Steve Hayes with the call.
26 Flying Tigers set to do battle for 20 laps. They will be led to the green by the 81 of Mike Nass and the 07 of Jeff Plunkett. In row 2, Moon Miller with a 99, Brian Bushy's number 17. Row 3 occupied by Ernie Holmes and Toby Ebersol. In row 4, the 75 of Sparky LePan, the 71 of Chris Fisher. Top 10 rounded out by Bob Woods, 57, and Dave Wilcox is 44. Then Russell Johnson, Jimmy Young in the 6th row. Row 7, Danny Benoit and Tyson Drown. They're followed by Mike Bushy, Brad Duquette, Mark Eddy, Eldred Hutchins, Leo Williams, Foster, Gary Wood, Haywood, St. Clair, Sorella, shotgun to the 39 of Billy Sawyer. We are up and away. 26 Tigers come to life. And in a 20-lap main event, this could get real interesting, fans. Up front, Miller to the inside of pole sitter Nass. Clearly draws left side. Plunkett in trouble with the 07. Plunkett, a heavy-duty stream of smoke for the back end of that machine. He pulls to the high side, lets everybody by him. Oh, Gary Wood doesn't get by him, though. Gary Wood clobbers the back end of the 07. They both continue, however, but a scary moment for our feature winner last week, and the guy who's won 3 already this year. 4 wide into 3, and Brian Bushy says, where is everybody coming from? Trouble out of Wilcox, hard in the wall. Dave Wilcox wisely keeps the car to the wall, and he bounced in front of traffic. That car would have been more severely damaged, and he still continues on. Scary moment again, this time Wilcox the recipient. Qualifiers went to LePan, Miller, and Eddy. The semi to Mike Bushy. And Miller leads them all right now. Moon Miller, 3 or 4 car lengths in front of Ernie Holmes, Sparky LePan, then Bob Woods and Danny Benoit. As far as the guys battling for the points, Leo running about 11th, Williams about 15th. Trouble in 3. Tyson Drown turned around on the track. Everybody avoids the spun 86. No caution yet, and we could have had about 2 or 3 so far, so these guys are not waiting for yellows. They're simply taking off when they're able to do so. 5 down, 15 to go. Moon Miller leads them all. Holmes runs second, followed by LePan and Benoit, but Ernie Holmes goes wide, and as Ernie goes wide, LePan gets under him, Benoit will get under him, and they may not be the only ones. Mike Bushy splits them going into 3. Mike Bushy, a very bold move by the driver of the 49, and he'll be a third of the strike for his efforts. Although Benoit takes third back as they rub side by side. Miller is getting reeled in by the field. LePan is catching him in a big way. Pulls to Mike Nass, trouble out of 2. He gets it back going, but they're passing him to the left and passing him to the right. Hutchins in trouble out of 4, and he was not the only one. A couple other cars came together, but Hutchins, the only one turned around. He prefers to keep going. Off the backstretch, Danny Benoit with a wild slide. Benoit was running fourth, not anymore. As the orange 74 of Wild Dan is parked in the turn 3 infield. It is Miller with LePan on his back bumper. They both won their qualifiers. Mike Bushy won the semi, and the guy running fourth won the other qualifier. So the top 4 are guys who have already carried checkers tonight in this division. Danny Benoit was hoping to get a caution, didn't get it, goes a lap down. Now says, well, I guess I better go. They're not going to throw yellow for me. Up front, Mike Bushy tries to pull alongside the leader, Moon Miller. The rookie in the 99, our former street stock champ, going to drag race our semi-winner to the line. Half down that time by. And the second half will not be as nice as the first half for Moon Miller. Benoit goes way wide, lets everybody through. And where did Jason Leo come from? Leo is battling for third, and I'll tell you what, I didn't even see him come up. Eric Williams is about 12th right now, so Williams making up a bunch of points. Bushier leader, Benoit, the slower automobile, gets turned around. Plunkett turned around and 2, he'll continue. This is getting fun up front, fans. Bushy starting to pull away, but Leo battling Miller for second now. Behind him, LePan and Eddie side by side. And 6th currently occupied by Brad Dukin in the 18. Where's Eric Williams? He's got a problem. Williams is 17th on the field. Oh, make that 16th. One of the cars in front of him is a lapped automobile. Williams is 16th and not very quick right now. Trouble in 3. Could this be the caution Williams that everyone needs? Wilcox is turned around and the yellow comes out. And this will be truly interesting. The front of this pack will be a terrific battle for the next 6 or 7 laps. Mike Bushy, Jason Leo, Mark Eddy, they'll all be in. And Rob, boy, this is getting exciting.
Steve Hayes, Mike Bushy looks like he's really flying tonight, but he's going to have Jason Leo on his outside. This is going to be an interesting restart. Mark Eddy riding right behind in third. Eric Williams has had a lot of trouble working his way up to the front of the pack. And at this point, Leo would take a big chunk out of that lead that Williams has built up.
Williams is having problems. He had a clear track for about 2 laps and didn't make up a bit. So it's obvious the 77 machine is not doing too well for Mr. Williams right now. The Memorial Ambulance car maybe leading the points here, maybe leading the points at T-Road, but it's not leading this race, and right now it doesn't look like it will.
All right, as they sort out the field, we'll take a break with 13 laps complete. We'll remind you that you're watching MotorSports Magazine from Airborne. Restart lineup is set with 16 complete, 4 to go. Steve Hayes is going to be a great finish.
Well, the front row may have a minor score to settle if you remember what happened there at the last caution, or before the last caution. Bushy Eddie set to do battle from the front of the pack. I would imagine Eddie will try to keep it as low as possible, but Rob may mention that maybe Bushy's problem is a tire going down. Well, if that's the case, when he hits turn 1, Eddie may be trying to go low, but Bushy's car's going to be wanting to go wide. Leo might take the lead, but we could have a major problem. It's all speculation, but in about 10 seconds, we're going to know the answers. 16 down, 4 to go. Mike Bushy, Mark Eddy lead him to the stripe. Eddy will not run side by side of the leader. And Bushy does drift up, but not quite as far. Let's see when he gets the car up to speed if he goes any higher. Leo in a second. Trouble in the backstretch. Fisher turned it around. Keeps it going. I'll tell you, a guy moving it, Duke into the 18. On the inside of Eddy, battling for third. Dave Foster currently runs 5th. Eddy is stuck on the high groove. But he's got some power coming out of 2. Bushier leader, Leo second. Eddy trying to catch back up to Leo. Duke and Foster still in the hunt. There will be 2 to go this time out of 4, and this sets up to be a wild finish. Duke in the side of Eddy. Eddy cuts down. Duke doesn't give the room, and they tag each other. Eddy turns it around, a caution. May come out. The track is blocked on the inside. Tyson Drown is nailed on the driver door by the Ernie Holmes machine when Ernie had no place to go. Also involved Young, Gary Wood. So, Rob, right now the way they're lined up is Leo and Duquette, but you have got to figure things are going to get jostled here. The incident happened. Duquette going to the inside of Eddie, came in contact. The 51 got turned around, but I'll tell you what, this still could be a pretty good race.
Eric Williams picked up about 4 spots on that incident, and he is clearly a big benefactor after that one, Steve Hayes. But I think, again, we had a couple cars going for the same spot, and contact ensued. A couple cars sent for a ride.
Well, Mike Bushy now goes up to the front. He was not in line when I mentioned the first time. That's why I thought he disappeared. I didn't see him when I did a quick scan of the track. So I believe it still will be Bushy, Leo in 1, in the front row, that is. Duquette up there with Foster, but Marchetti, the unfortunate victim this time around. Except for the restart. We mentioned out of the 16 main events, 6 were won by the front row. Well, the next 3 allied have not won one, and the next 2, Hutchins and Williams, have only won 1. A lot of hungry guys behind that front row. Bushy and Leo once again take them out of their way with 2 laps to go. Duquette third, Foster fourth, followed by LePan, Hutchins and Williams. And again, trouble at 1 and 2, Mike Nathmoon Miller. At big trouble now, Chris Fisher comes in contact with one automobile. Gary Wood T-bones him. A white flag will come out. The other car involved was the 82 of Ebersol. And as the white flies, Leo gets his car in front by half a car length. Mike Bushy trying to drag race him out of 2 down the backstretch. Both these guys have won 3 apiece. One of them might win 4 in just a couple of seconds. Here they come out of Fort Bushy. Gets the momentum. He will win it over Leo. Brad Duquette third, followed by Dave Foster. Williams fifth, then Hutchins, LePan, and Russell Johnson. Trouble out there for the last lap. St. Clair and Ernie Holmes in trouble. So a yellow head checker flying right now, but an exciting last couple of laps. Mike Bushy wins number 4 and keeps Jason Leo from that honor. Third place to Brad Duquette, a good run there. Fourth to Dave Foster, and fifth to the 75 of LePan. And Rob, the only race left for these guys, of course, is the fall finale in the Palm Foliage 300, a 50-lap main event, and the points have tightened up a bit. Williams caught him at the end, but Leo still got a few more points than him in this main event.
Steve Hayes, what can you say? Another interesting run for the Flying Tigers. Always put on a great show here at Airborne, and that race, Mike Bushy, about 3 feet the difference as he pulls home the victory.
All right, that wraps up Tiger action for tonight. The next on tap is the late model sportsman main event highlights. Rob will have the call, but we can tell you, we understand already, a couple of key drivers having trouble. Ron Weston looking for a ride. You know the plights of Billy Found. We'll have to see if that car can return.
All right, there's the car and driver who finishes third. It's Brad Duquette. Finishing second, Jason Leo, car number 8. And the winner, yet to get out of his car, the driver, car 49, Mike Bushy. Stay with us, more action coming up on Motorsports Magazine from Airborne. Feature time for the late model sportsman. Great field of cars, some outstanding automobiles at the rear of the field. Let's set the field for you. On the pole, the driver of car number 6, a rookie out of Milton, Vermont, it's Rod Weed. On his outside, Robin Wood, driver of the 61. Inside of row 2, it's Plattsburgh's Tim Patinka. On the outside, another rookie, Gordon Adams, driver of the 55. We go back to row 3. On the inside, we find Norm Gay out of Moores, New York, and on the outside, Alberg, Vermont's Tony Poisson. Back to row 4. On the inside, it is Huntington, Vermont's Lonnie Lackalate. On the outside, Champlain's David Gay. Row 5, Essex Junction's Ron Lamel Jr. On the inside and on the outside, Plattsburgh's Bucko Branham. Row 6, it's Steve Renadette and Joe Thomas. Row 7, Danny Bridges and Scott Carpenter. Row 8, Peter Fecto. And on the outside, Brent Dragon. Row 9, there's Doug Hoare and Glenn Wright. Row 10, points leader Dave Whitcomb and Gary Godin. Row 11, we find Dave Gibbs and the 8 of Monty Lemaire. Then it is Mark Lanfear driving the 40. In the 91 is Billy Fountain, George Bissett from Danbury, Connecticut, and Brian Hoare, driver of the 45. Points tonight from that 45 car will be awarded to Ron Weston. Whoa, we already have a spin out. Green flies, but there were problems on that start. Now problems on the backstretch. Field comes out of turn 4. Rod Weed's going to lead this first lap. On the start, some of the cars were just a little bit too quick. David Gay goes around. Contact with Peter Fecto. And the yellow comes out right from the start of this main event. Things seem to be a little bit hectic out there, as on the start of the race, Monty Lemaire just flat out drove into the back end of Gary Godin, sent Gary Godin spinning. As Lemaire comes around, you can see the damage to his front. Gary Godin ended up handicapped to the rest of the field as he was parked, thanks to the car number 8. Field down the backstretch, David Gay with lots of damage on the 19 car. Hopefully it'll be more cosmetic than anything else, but he had quite a bit of material torn up. Came into contact with Peter Fecto. Fecto running 5th in the points, actually 4th in points here in the late model Sportsman. So they will reset the field with just 1 lap complete, and we will have a restart. Steve Hayes, I got a feeling that this could be a little bit of a hairy race here tonight, because let's face it, there's quite a bit of time off for some of these drivers, and hopefully they'll keep good sense and not do anything foolish out there.
Well, you would hope that, and right now things got off to a bit of a hairy start, but they could easily calm things down. The problem is that some of these guys, though, do have more racing ahead. Like next weekend, a lot of them are going to be at Thunder Road for the Milk Bowl. And the guys who are not planning to race until fall foliage here at Airborne, yeah, those are the guys who make it a little too racy out there. But, you know, there's a story in this race, Rob. The world of racing is truly strange. Remember a month and a half ago, Ron Weston and Brian Hoare had an on-track altercation that escalated in the pits. They were, let's say, not on each other's Christmas card list. Well, right now with Weston getting the points, he wants that 45 to get to the front and stay there.
All right, we will take a break as they reset the field. We'll come back with a restart and remind you that you are watching late model sportsman action from Airborne on MotorSports Magazine. Restart lineup is set. 1 lap complete. It's Rod Weed, Robin Wood, Tim Patinka, Norm Gay, Gordon Adams, Lonnie Lackalade, Ron Lamel Jr., Steve Renadette, Danny Bridges, Bucko Branham, Tony Poissant, Scott Carpenter, Joe Thomas, Brent Dragon, Glenn Wright, Billy Fountain. Whoa! Fountain passed almost 10 cars in a lap. That's a pretty good advance. Again, a jumbled start. Front of the pack starts to move side by side out of 4. The green flies. Robin Wood on the outside. Tries to get the jump. Down the backstretch there, even. Rod Weed on the inside. Wood on the outside as they head into 3 and come out of turn 4 side by side. Look out. Timmy Patinka a little bit loose. Almost went around in front of the field as they continue to run 3 wide. Now Patinka gets to the inside, and he will settle into the 3rd spot. Norm Gay runs 4th. 5th on the inside, it's the 17 of Lonnie Lackalade. Lackalade looks to move under Gay for the 4th spot, and he will. Side-by-side battle for 6th. It's Gordon Adams and Steve Renadet. Renadet stuck on the outside trying to work traffic. Robin Wood to the inside. Contact with Rod Weed. Look out, Rod Weed on the inside of the track, backs up the track, and everybody is going to miss him. Now contact in turn 4. Gordon Adams goes around. Billy Fountain keeps the car rolling. Gordon Adams is parked on the inside of turn 4. As we have action all over the racetrack. Steve Hayes, a couple of incidents first. On the backstretch, we had a car going around, and then here in the front stretch, contact with Gordon Adams. On the backstretch, surprised that no one came into contact with Rod Weed, as Weed and Robin Wood battling for position. Wood tried to make a move to the inside. Both cars went to the infield.
Well, as far as the incident out of 2 of the backstretch between the leaders, Wood got to the inside. Weed wasn't quite ready to give it up yet. Neither one gave Rubin. They both went to the infield, like you said. Then the incident on 4, I don't know how they could have known, but it looked like someone anticipated a caution coming out, because a couple of automobiles slowed right down in 4 like there'd be a yellow, but I don't know how they could have seen it. The incident was behind them.
It looks like the caution was thrown for the 6 of Rod Weed. That being the case, we'll go back to the last completed lap. Good news for the 61 of Robin Wood is he will get the top spot back. Good break there.
Bad news and a bad break for the 83 in particular, because he'll be on the outside groove.
All right, 5 laps complete. We'll take a break. And remind you, you're watching late model sportsman action from Airborne. All right, we're set to restart with 12 laps complete. Robin Wood in the pits, Billy Fountain in the pits, Brian Hoare in the pits, and we're set to restart with Steve Renadet and Ron Lamel in the front row. Tim Patinka on the inside of row 2, Danny Bridges on the outside, then Bucko Branham on the inside of row 3, Lonnie Lacklade on the outside. 12 down, 18 to go in the late model sportsman feature. Renadet with a great jump down the backstretch. Bucko Branham to the inside of Tim Patinka for 3rd. He's got the position. Tight racing all over the racetrack. Carpenter to the inside of Patinka. Doug Hoare to the inside of Tim Patinka. Both cars appear to be very quick, marching to the front. Steve Renadet leads it. 2nd is Ron Lamel Jr. That 11 car's been real consistent the last 3-4 weeks. Running 3rd is Bucko Branham. 4th is Danny Bridges. 5th, Scott Carpenter. 6th, Doug Hoare. 7th, Glenn Wright. Running 8th, Tim Patinka. 9th is Brent Dragon. And running in the top 10 is Joe Thomas. Renadet leads it. It's half a car length back to Ron Lamel Jr. Then it's about 10 car lengths back to Bucko Branham, who runs 3rd. Branham has a car length lead over Danny Bridges, who runs 4th, and a car length back to the 5th place runner, Scott Carpenter. Bridges to the inside of Bucko Branham for 3rd. Doug Hoare, meanwhile, looks to the inside of Scott Carpenter for 5th. Bridges makes the pass on the inside. He's 3rd. 4th is Branham. 5th, Carpenter. 6th, Doug Hoare. While these cars battle for position up front, it is still Steve Rennedet and Ron Lamel Jr. Laps are complete. Steve Rennedet leads it. Ron Lamel is 2nd. Then it's almost half a straightaway back to 3rd place runner Danny Bridges. 4th is Bucko Branham. Battle for 5th between Scott Carpenter and Doug Hoare. Hoare looks to the outside. Lamel, dirt style out of 4 that time, loses ground on the battle down the front stretch. Right now, the best racing on the track is for 5th place. It's between Scott Carpenter and Doug Hoare. These cars have been under a blanket for the last 7 laps. Hoare is loose. Doug Hoare loose that time. Not only does he not pick up a spot, but he loses a spot to Glenn Wright, who moves underneath. 2nd place point man, Brent Dragon. Right now he's running right around the 8th or 9th spot. You can see 2 car lengths behind him, Dave Whitcomb. We'll go back to the top spot where Steve Rennedet, with 25 complete, has opened it up. Rod Wade is off on the backstretch, gets the car rolling once again. And these guys are still under a blanket. Glenn Wright to the inside of Scott Carpenter. Wright in the Children's Miracle Network 48 takes the spot away down the backstretch. Doug Hoare moves underneath Carpenter as well. Glenn Wright is now 5th. 6th is Doug Hoare. 7th is Scott Carpenter. Running 8th, Brent Dragon. 9th is Dave Whitcomb. Two laps to go. And problems on Scott Carpenter's 36. We go back to the front. Here is leader Steve Rennedet with a white flag. Ron Lamel, a car length behind. He's been there the last 20 laps. Can he do anything about it? I doubt it. Rennedet approaching traffic. It will not play a factor. He comes out of 4, sees the checkers, and he wins it. 2nd is Ron Lamel Jr. 3rd to Bucko Branham. 4th to the 9 of Danny Bridges. 5th, Glenn Wright. 6th, Doug Hoare. 7th, Scott Carpenter. Dave Whitcomb, 8th. 9th, Brent Dragon. Joe Thomas, 10th. David Gay, 11th. 12th, Tony Poisson. 13th, Peter Fecto. Mark Lanfear, 14th. 15th, Tim Patinka. And from there on back, looks like Norm Gay, Monty Lemaire, George Bissett. Well, a lot of green flag running, and Steve Rennedet, as fast as we have seen him, Steve Hayes, in about the last 4 weeks.
First win of the season here at Airborne for the 76 of Rennedet as he got to the front, but he had to earn it. The Lamel number 11 was all over the back bumper for most of the race. Best battle may have been the battle for 3rd between Branham and the 9 of Bridges. Bridges drifted high a couple of laps ago. Branham underneath, he was able to hold on for 3rd.
So a good run for Steve Rennedet with his first victory on the season. Good late race move by Bucko Branham to take the show position away from Danny Bridges as Branham ends up third. And there he is. Didn't fare too well in the tricycle races earlier tonight, but I'm sure he's happy with the third place finish in this late model sportsman main event. Bringing it home second, Ron Lamel Jr., driver of car 11. Saw the rear end of car 76 for about 20 laps. And the driver of that car, number 76, Steve Rennet, sure was fast this evening. And he's going to take away the checkers. There, Steve Rennet had some tough luck this season. Remember the double points event, 76. Not able to make the call for the feature event as he had problems actually in the practice. And I'm sure he's real happy this evening bringing home the checkered flag in this main event. Steve Rennet, the winner in the final Saturday night race for the late model sportsman. All right, stay with us. One event left to hit the speedway, and that, of course, the street stocks. Remind you, you're watching racing action from Airborne on MotorSports Magazine. Fifteen laps the distance for the street stocks. And a great field of cars, Steve Hayes. This should be a good one.
28 machines set to do battle for a 15-lap main event. And this one could really get interesting. Of course, cars we will try to watch. Dan Gibbs and Brian Pugh are guys battling for the track championship in this division. But right now, starting in the front row, the guys everyone will have to get by. 69 Jace Ashlider, the 39 of Sonny Reeves. In row 2, the 35 of Brian Rail, the 11 of Jim Varno. Ken Musick and Chuck Farnsworth in row 3. And Farnsworth, pretty good starting spot for that guy. Broussard, Carey, Preston, and Leo Duggan round out the top 10 of the 28-car starting field. We had 30 attempt qualifying. We have 28 answer the call for the 15-lap main event. As they go storming 3 wide into one of the first laps. The aforementioned Farnsworth to the inside, battling for the lead. Pole center Ashline blocks him that time. Behind Farnsworth is the 11 of Arno. Reeves stuck on the high side. 4 wide going through 4, and Kurt LeGray ran out of track up there with the black 72. One hard charger making his way up the 28 of Skip Liberty. Liberty up to 6th. Scratch that, make that 7th. But he has found a racing groove and has stuck to it. We'll set the field this time by with 2 down, 13 to go. Farnsworth leads them all, followed by Varno, Carey, Broussard, Ashline, Liberty, Trombley, Grunup, Pugh, Preston, Reeves, and Frenier. Big time trouble in 2, but everyone straightens it out except the pole setter, Jace Ashline. 69 goes to the infield. He will refire and continue on. Could have been worse. Hey, I said Liberty is quick. Right behind Liberty, and he started farther back. Our points leader, Brian Pugh, came to life. Brian Pugh is running 5th right now, and the guy chasing him in the points, Dan Gibbs, is about 15th. Farnsworth, your leader, but as they come out of 4, several cars loose to the back end. No incidents, however. Everybody keeps them going straight. Broussard second, but Andrew Carey about ready to make a move for that position. Way off the backstretch was Frenier with a 77. Trouble on the 92, Dan Gibbs, and major trouble in turn 4. Everybody trying to avoid Andrew Carey. But Dan Gibbs' car down the backstretch slowed drastically. He came back, refired it, but could be some problems on the 92 of Dan Gibbs, last week's feature winner. Up at 4, however, Andrew Carey, lucky he didn't get collected by more cars, Rob, as a lot of cars with so few laps. Everyone trying to make their way up front quickly.
Contact or maybe something down on the racing surface, as a couple of cars were real loose that time in between turns 3 and 4, and as you said, we're lucky we didn't have a major melee after that one.
All right, we'll line them up, start it over. The car to watch all of a sudden becomes our points leader, the 29 of Brian Pugh. He has a lot of laps left. I'll tell you, Brian Pugh does not want that yellow to come out. He has a huge lead right now on Frenier and Broussard. A major problem in the front stretch. The 08 today feels a semi-regular competitor. Head on in the wall, but not too hard. He pulls away, but he is leaking fluid. A lot of fluid. Farnsworth 75 is parked the wrong way, short of the stripe. And I cannot believe the caution hasn't come out. There is a whole bunch of fluid heading into what? It's on the high groove. But if any, oh, we got a problem out of 4. Parrot into the wall. He'll take Preston with him. This will bring out the caution. They came out of 4 in the 3-wide maneuver, and this time it didn't work. Preston refired. Dave Parrott refires. Caution on the track. Brian Pugh's not going to be happy. But a couple of incidents, back-to-back laps on the front stretch, Rob, and we have some cars in severe danger. Nobody worse for wear, though.
Well, Steve, I'm surprised that there's not a black flag, as a couple of the incidents appeared as though some of the cars might have had some help. But I know one car was sent into the wall, and it really looked like he got turned around.
Well, I can tell you 2 guys right now that had help, but we won't mention any names because, in all honesty, it's quite possible it didn't appear as a scene, but I don't know. It looked pretty bad, didn't it, Rob?
It did. We'll leave it at that.
We can tell you, though, that, you know, I mentioned Brian Pugh, don't give him this win. Definitely don't give him this win, because when they restart, the 77 machine of Rick Frenier, who, let's admit it, has been a very strong car, will give Brian Pugh, I'm sure, all he can handle.
Hasn't been very good the last couple of days for these fields.
Getting set to go back to green flag racing. 9 down, 6 to go. The front row, Brian Pugh, Rick Frenier. Let's call them even money favorites at this point. Row 2, Tony Broussard and Skip Liberty. Row 3, Sean Fountain and Dan Gibbs, who, whatever the problems were, they're solved. He's up to 6th. Row 4, Terry Gunnup, Leo Dogan. Top 10, rounded out by Ralph Doss Jr. and Bob Wells. 6 laps remain. 3 miles of a race in action. And 2 of the big ones. Brian Pugh and Rick Frenier will set them all on their way. Frenier will stay door pedal with the points leader. Now Frenier tucks in behind. That's going to leave Liberty and Gibbs in the high groove, high and dry. Dan Gibbs splits Sean Fountain and Skip Liberty, moves into 4th. Make it 3rd as he gets to the outside of Broussard. Trouble at 3. Andrew Carey turned around again. This time he came in contact with the 01 of Nolan. No caution, however. Brian Pugh opens the door. Rick Frenier says, hey, I didn't need the opener, but I'll take it, buddy. He will shoot to the top spot. Now Brian Pugh goes from the pursuee to the pursuer. Trying to get back in the inside groove. Dan Gibbs, though, has his sights set on that 29 machine, but they forgot about the 71 of Broussard. 4 automobiles come in contact as Sean Fountain passes, get this, fans, Broussard, Gibbs, and Brian Pugh. That's what he'll remember for a while. The only thing between the 91 of Fountain and the lead is the very elusive black 77 of Rick Frenier. Well, now it is Rick Frenier who doesn't want to see the yellow come out. But everyone else would love to see it. Especially Brian Pugh, who was backing off. Brian Pugh may not be the points leader when this thing is said and done. Car is acting up, and Brian is in severe trouble with the 29 with 2 to go. Dan Gibbs is 3rd. Brian Pugh is 10th, and in jeopardy of falling farther back. Rick Frenier has 1 more lap to go. The Brian Pugh car is now 13th. Frenier, a very large margin on the last lap of competition. Sean Fountain holding Dan Gibbs at bay. Broussard is 4th. And Skip Liberty will have to hold off the 60 at Gunnup if he wants 5th. But I have a feeling we'll have a new points leader at the end of tonight. It'll be unofficial, though. Frenier wins it. Fountain 2nd. Dan Gibbs 3rd. Broussard 4th, followed by Fountain, Gunnup, Bob Wells, Doss, LaGrave, Fisher, Varno, Nolan, Farnsworth, Duggan, Trombley, Martin, Rick Wells, and then Brian Pugh with a right front flat. Uh-oh. I got a feel that's too many positions. And Dan Gibbs, who started out after the first week as a points leader, held it for a few weeks. Looks like he may be the points leader when we start Fall Foliage Weekend in a month.
About 5 laps into this one, it looked like the 29 of Brian Pugh was in a good position to pad his lead over Gibbs in car number 92, as Gibbs was running about 15th and Pugh was running at the top of the pack. But how things change in racing. Pugh cuts the right front tire, goes backwards, and Gibbs gets to the front, and I think you are correct. They'll probably be our points leader heading into the final weekend.
Yeah, we could be wrong, but if he's not the points leader, he's going to be close. And you know, that right front flat may be a very expensive flat tire for Brian Pugh. May have just taken him out of a track championship. He will have to decide it with our 3rd place finisher tonight, the orange and white 92 of Dan Gibbs, on October 1st and 2nd, Fall Foliage Weekend, the next event and the last one here at Airborne. So, Rob, we've got some time off, but all these guys are going to be thinking for about 4 weeks. What do I have to do? They'll know what they have to do, and then they're going to have to do it October 1st and 2nd.
Steve Hayes, Motorsports Magazine will still be busy, however, as we are going to try to keep our schedule busy, keep in touch with the Press Republican, and hopefully you'll be able to note any program changes which might be coming up. We're looking into covering some other events. As well, look for the International Super Modified Association race to be coming up on Motorsports Magazine. Of course, that race from the Lee USA Speedway. Steve, it seems odd to say it, but the final Saturday night race is in the books. We have a month off, no racing in the month of September, and then we'll be back here October 1st and 2nd for the Fall Foliage Weekend. A lot of big races, of course. The ACT, the headliner on that car, 300 laps. But there's a Western Regional race involved in there on the Saturday. There's a 50-lap race for the Flying Tigers. So there's going to be a lot of action here on that weekend, Saturday the 1st and Sunday the 2nd of October.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the race I'm looking forward to, in addition to our final points races here and, of course, the 300, is that regional on Saturday, because there'll be a lot of guys people will not have seen in competition. It is the 6th and final race, and I would imagine a car that might be in attendance here for Fall Foliage will be Junior Hanley. Now, let me explain something about Hanley. He has only had 2 races with the Tour this year. He hasn't finished on lead lap yet, but if he doesn't have anything else, I think he'll be here for those 2 big races in October.
Steve Hayes, final comments on this racing card here on Saturday, August 27th.
Well, points have tightened. Some drivers obviously were eliminated by tonight's racing, but the big story may be these guys you're looking at. 16 points, the difference with